Alright guys, I dove into this to try to figure out what the hell's going on, is the best answer I can give you. I pulled some of the stuff off because I needed to adjust some stuff that I noticed, and I got to go through and fix some stuff. Like this beam here, it's good, but the problem is there was another board here on this that ran down that was pulled off because it was broken. And when he put the box back on, he just put the box back on, but he didn't re-support this. I actually took another board and a big hammer and pounded this so this was flat now. And when I did that, I was able to bring this part of the wall back forward because it wasn't how I would like it. It was going to cause issues with drywall and all that stuff. Because even when I put my flat edge on there, I wasn't flat across these beams. So now I got that where it's better and it's more flat than what it was, and I'm flat against these here now. I'm flat there. So I'm flat now, which I had to fix that, but I had to take apart some of this stuff to do that. And then I'll show you guys here. Okay, this was part of the one issue, was this was bowed in terribly bad here. Okay, it still kind of is because I don't have a spacer completely made, but I put a spacer down there and it's going to work better. So I'm going to have to cut some of this and make a spacer to go top to bottom. Okay, because that side will look like that. You can see there's a gap. You follow it, you go down, you go down, you go down, then there's no gap. And that's going to cause an issue with the door sitting in there on the front side. It's not going to be flat against this. As you guys can see, it's been snowing. So I got this board held on over my door hole with a screw to try to keep a lot of the cold air out. So the other thing I'm gonna have to do too is I'm gonna have to make a spacer to shove underneath down here. Okay, I'm gonna take the screws loose and shove a spacer in here to keep air out. Okay, so that's gonna be fun. It's gonna have to be a thin spacer because of how he spaced these guys here, because instead of doing it how they did it originally, when they did it, they used stuff like this as spacers to keep it out. He used these boards and he screwed them in, so I can't even get in here with a pry bar and pry them out and just make spacers. He did the same thing here. So, but you know, you can move some of that, which I don't care for. So what I'm gonna do too is I'm gonna take a 2x4 and attach a 2x4 to this, so that way these don't bow and I can't push my wall in and out, because I don't need to lean on the wall and crack the drywall when I lean on it. So, and the other thing I did too was I took my sledgehammer to this and, well, basically just tapped the base plate out with a sledgehammer in the board, because this here was still pushed in and it wasn't corrected, it wasn't dealt with. So I moved it out a little bit so that way I can get it situated. So yeah, gotta love it. So anyway, I got that done. So but I need to space this out so that doesn't move, because I mean, I'm not using much force and I can move that in and out, which that's going to cause an issue when I attach this to this. It's going to want to move, so that way I can try to keep my switch box spaced out for when I do my drywall, so then I can try to make everything even and nice and, oops, I'm sorry guys, even, nice and pretty. So yeah, what great craftsmanship. Gotta love it. Alright guys, here's a little tip from something that I've learned and done before. I needed to make a little, I guess you could say, furring strip would be the best way to call it, to fill here. Okay, so that way I can get this going down all even. Now when I put a level on it, it is more or less level. I mean, it's close enough for a house that was built in the late 1700s. So what I'm doing there is I'm just gonna use this as a furring strip or spacer strip in there. And I gotta cut a little piece to run going back that way on the very bottom to seal it up in here. And I gotta do the same on the other one. But here's back to what I was saying, this tip. If you have a scrap piece of 2x4 that's pretty much straight, I actually cut this with a Sawzall. Yeah, it's not quite straight. You know, if I used you can look down it, it's off a little bit, but if I used a circle saw, it would probably have been straighter, maybe not, I don't know. But I don't have a table set up right now for it. I'm trying to do this inside and keep the mess to a minimum, so that way I can get it. So anyway, what I did is I took a 2x4, screwed it to it 3 places, top, bottom, screwed it top, bottom, and middle. And then I used the side of my Sawzall against the 2x4, and I got a pretty much straight line. I mean, for what I'm using it for, it's straight enough. It doesn't have to be precise to be a spacer. It's just something so when I put my door in, I can have it where the casing will be more or less flush, and I don't have to deal with a gap from here to here where it's tight. Because that's a half an inch gap, roughly. Quarter inch, yeah, about a half inch gap. This is half inch OSB. So now the only problem I'm gonna have is because what's been done here is with 2 layers of paneling up here, my door, when I put it in, the case, the inside of the casing will be flush with this, which not that big of a deal. But when you put the drywall on there, you're gonna see the edge of the drywall. There's nothing to cover it. Usually when you put a door in, it goes up to here and it'll cover it. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to make a 1/2 inch wide strip to put on the inside before I put my trim back on to fill the gap, okay? Now before, what they did here with this front door is they actually took a door with a casing for a 2x6 wall, okay? And that's why my floor is cut out like this. But since I'm gonna be doing new floor, I'm not too worried. I can just have it be ran straight and life will be good. But if I wasn't, then I'd have to get a door with a 2x6 casing, which came to here in the end of the day. So something to think about too while you're replacing doors, make sure you get the door with the right size casing. I mean, if I wasn't doing it, I could fix it with a nice piece of wood trim down on the bottom, like a sill plate or a step plate, and cover it, which it would be fine. Let me go to another door so I can show you guys what I'm talking about. As you can see, this is a 2x4 door, you know, 2x4 they used. 2x4 door casing, I guess you could say. And they should have used the 2x6 on this one, but they used the 2x4, then they just made a spacer strip and painted it white. You won't see it with the trim on there. Now, if with it being a 2x4 wall, your door frame would be like this guy, which would be smooth one side with the drywall, be smooth with the drywall on this. So when you put your trim on it, you just put your trim right up against it, and it's done. So, but what's gonna happen with mine is when I put the trim on it, I'm gonna have, you know, space coming out, and then I'm gonna have the trim, so the trim could actually go, you know, right in line against the hinges or over top of it. It's gonna be a little bit recessed, like this one. So, just to let you guys know with that type of stuff, if you start doing your own stuff, to look at that and check it beforehand. It's not a big deal, but you'll have to make spacers like this if you don't use the right door. And then you have stuff like this that goes on where, you know, the door handle, the door catch, as you can see, always rubs it, and it just makes a little black mark. You know, I could probably do something with that where it doesn't rub it. You know, maybe tap this in just a little bit there, put some screws, something like that, suck it into the wall, just a skosh where it's not visible. But anyway, so that's something to think about. So, alright guys, so this is what's going on so far. You're gonna see multiple videos put into one as I'm working on this. So what I was able to do is I took this board off already, went through, I doubled it up to shim it. So that way now this looks flat, it's not curved. Before it was really bowed in, you could tell it, I mean, it just was screwed up looking. So now what I'm doing is I'm going through and I'm building up here, because he had this and he had this, but he didn't have any of this and he didn't have any of this down here. So I put a board on the bottom to help with the air, so I don't have air coming up through my wall, because that's not good. And now I'm just trying to figure out what to do up here, because he's got this like this. I trimmed it so that could go there, and I'm trying to figure out how to run the rest of this. I think I'm gonna just leave that open, and I'm gonna cut a little piece like I did here and run it from up top there to over here to try to seal it up better. And that's what I think I'm gonna do. As you can see, it's an old house. The beams are, you know, that's one of my beams right there. You can see how they did that with that. They drilled it and lag bolted it, and that's how it was, how it is. So that's pretty cool, actually. I don't know if I have to, since I got this now, I can really look it up. Other parts of the house are pinned. That might be a big pin. So I can look it up and try to figure out what year that is. But as you can see, what they use for header boards is that big guy up there. So it's wider than a 2x4. Only way to get it really even is to use a 2x4 and a half sheet of OSB to get it where it's flat. So, yep.